This is K-12 Tech Talk. K-12 Tech Talk. The podcast by K-12 Techs for K-12 Techs. Real conversations, real arguments, and real banter on trending K-12 technology topics and issues.
Live from the somethingcool.com studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. I am Josh. With me, as always, are my two partners in crime. Is it three? I guess we would be three partners in crime, the total of us, but you are my two partners in crime. Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hey.
And Mark.
Hello.
How are you guys doing? How's the week been?
Good.
It seems like just yesterday we were video chatting and recording last week's episode. Before we get too far, let's drop our email address because I love it. We have been getting so many listener emails. We have a couple more tonight. None of them are from Pate, but we love getting emails. So please keep emailing us, k12techtalk@gmail.com. We've got an international listener email tonight, which is super cool. We're also on Twitter. You can catch us at K12techtalkpod. One other thing that I wanted to talk about.
And if you're real classy, we're on LinkedIn.
Ooh, LinkedIn. Yeah. That's an interesting social media.
And that picture looks just like me.
Does it? I'll have to look closer.
20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's young Chris.
That's young Chris before any gray hair, but he still had a sweet flow, man.
I've always had the sweet flow.
So,
Since middle school, George Clooney, ER, that kind of like the side swoop.
Oh, you were a George Clooney hairdo guy?
I think so. Still am.
Yeah. No. Okay, so something that has kind of increased with the I don't know how to say this. Something that has made us even more busy than we are in the last couple of weeks. We have been, I say we, unfortunately, I don't know that I'm going to be able to make many of them, but we, the podcast, have been booked at several upcoming conferences. If you are going to, I guess the first upcoming one is going to be K-12-6, right? In Austin, Texas.
In a couple weeks.
Weeks. Mark and Chris will be there. This will be the first time that Mark and Chris have seen each other in person in the great state of Texas.
That's a trip, right? Josh, you and I are from Missouri.
Right.
Small towns in Missouri.
Right. Somehow
We're on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Then we meet a guy named Mark from Boston.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna meet. I'm for some reason you're not going with me. I'm going to Austin, Texas,
to meet Mark.
Meet Mark from Boston for the first time.
Austin, Massachusetts.
But I have given you guys places that you have to eat. Right, Franklin Barbecue in Austin. The original is in Franklin, Texas, but you have to go to Franklin Barbecue and eat. Mark, make sure Chris goes there.
I'm going to be I'm going for less than 24 hours. So I sorry.
Are you not going to, am I going to see you?
Maybe. I might make an appearance.
And I think we should unpack this too. So that's happening in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
In May,
I'm
we're
excited.
going to be in New Hampshire.
We're going to be in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And the three of us are going to meet.
Wait. Back up about 2 months. There's another one before May, right?
Yeah, just follow me here.
Okay, I'm following you.
In May, the three of us are together. I think that's probably going to be the first time the three of us are together.
Probably.
You think that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because Mark's not going to the next one after.
Right.
K-12-6.
Because why would we do this in chronological order? But
so
whatever.
Mark has said that he's going to pick us up from the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's going to bring us to a remote location.
Yeah.
And cook us breakfast.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure out if that's real. He's going to kill us.
You are staying at my house.
No, cabin.
We have a cabin in the woods.
Which is a little, right. So that's a little sketch. Yeah.
And I'm going to cook you breakfast.
Okay.
And then we're going to go present to the New Hampshire Tech Conference.
Which I'm super excited about.
And we're saying this because this needs to be on record. If something happens in May, this needs to be told to the court, to the people, that we did have concerns that we at least joked about.
That the search party knows we are somewhere in the New Hampshire is not that big, right? Like it's 6 miles across or something, Mark.
You can throw a football.
Yeah, it's not.
And it
that
leaves
big.
the state.
Yeah. So
I did say though, Josh and I have the text message group of the three of us, and then Josh and I still talk about Mark in another one.
what?
So I asked for pictures of the cabin to try to, just to see, like, we don't know this guy really.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of why we set up K-12-6, because if Mark is a killer, knowing my hair and what we unpacked just previously, Mark will not be able to resist me in Texas. If he's been plotting this and May is the thing.
He's going to kill you in Austin?
Yes.
Well, I have friends that live in Pflugerville, and actually my wife has family that lives outside of Austin by the SpaceX location. So we've got a couple safety nets in Texas.
Yep. We're watching you, Mark.
So after K-12-6, before the New Hampshire conference, Chris, and are we calling him intern Eric now? Did we make that decision?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so Chris and intern Eric, who's been on the podcast several times, will be at COSIN, which is in Austin again. So whatever barbecue places you Texas listeners, we have a good number of listeners in Texas. I'm assuming some of them are from Austin. Let us know where Chris and intern Eric and maybe Mark should eat while we're there, and maybe me if I get a chance to come down. I know Franklin Barbecue, Rudy's Barbecue. What else? So let us know, k12techtalk@gmail.com. So then after COSIN, we're going to have some interviews. You guys are going to do some interviews with some people that Mark is hooking us up with, some friends of Mark. So we're going to get all kinds of crazy stories about Mark and who he really is.
No, I get full editing rights.
Oh, okay. All right. And then
you only edit the ads.
So, and then after COSIN, we will be in New Hampshire for
then we got Midwest Tech Talk Security Symposium in there.
I thought that was before COSIN.
Oh, that's after. You're right.
Yeah.
That's in March.
So yeah, Midwest Tech Talk Security Symposium. If you're around Missouri, it's going to be in Columbia, Missouri on March 10th, right? Mm-hmm. Kickoff event party on the 9th, the evening of the 9th. So yeah, we've got a packed schedule. And did we ever guess that this podcast with three guys who really don't know each other would, and maybe one serial killer, would garner the attention of these different conferences and have us this
Mad
busy? Mark. But we love it. It's awesome. It's cool. We're gonna get out and see some people, give away some stickers, and
big and small.
We'll see big and small stickers. So before we get into listener emails, Chris, you said we had a new sponsor this week, but I thought you said you had gone out and gotten a new piece of apparel for your head, and you said visor. I thought you went out and got a new visor, like a sun visor, but you're telling me this is a sponsor for the show.
I've never worn a visor.
Back in the 80s, you didn't wear visors?
Mark, do you wear visors now?
No, it doesn't work well.
Yes, Visor is going to start hanging out with us. So they're the new proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. If you don't know about Visor, you're going to know. The long story short, you can kind of think through this. If you have a one-to-one program, if you have to manage your district's tech inventory, if you're doing that just with a spreadsheet, if you have thousands of Chromebooks or iPads or smartboards, whatever, Visor can help you with that. They can integrate with Google Admin Console, pull all the serial numbers in, the MAC addresses, all that kind of stuff. They can help you with your student help desk. And they're running a special for these next 6 episodes. You can get 20% off of Visor if you go to visor.cloud/K12 Tech Talk.
Ooh.
Holla.
Now that's how you do a custom URL.
I like it. Do you think they give visors out at conferences?
If they don't, they are, I think these companies, they don't realize when they sign up to be a sponsor with us, the amount of good ideas that we have for marketing materials is just astounding. Like, we should be charging for this. If they don't give away visors at conferences, I mean, that's like a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
Josh, I think you should be their advisor.
No. No. I'm sorry.
Good one, Mark. That was great. I'll take that one, Mark.
Sorry about that, Visor.
All right. So where do they go to get a hold of Visor or get that 20% off deal?
Visor.cloud/K12 Tech Talk.
Awesome. So let's get into, if anybody's curious, because we get so many emails about my bourbon selection. Tonight I am enjoying a fine whiskey from Redline Whiskey Company. It is their let's see. It is the finished in maple syrup barrels, part of their experimental cask series. It is very maple syrupy. Very, very good. So if you're, send me a bottle. We'll drink. I have no shame, man.
This episode is not filmed in dry January.
No, it is not. This is now damp February. I was going to say something else, but it was probably going to,
Let's just move on to listener emails, I think. Listener email from Jeff. Let's unpack this one a little bit. He kind of calls us out. So he says good things. He supports 9,000 students, 1,000 staff. He's got 14 techs.
Man, 9,000 students and 14 techs.
They're killing it.
Yeah.
And then he says this. I have one critique of the podcast.
What?
Josh. It's Josh, isn't it?
It just says
Is it my
Josh.
drinking habits?
He said as he's been listening through when COVID hit, when quarantine was going on, he thought we were going to unpack all the struggles that we went through and how traumatic that was. And I don't remember this, but I guess instead there's just a big void and we kind of skipped it.
Yeah.
I remember being depressed.
Yeah, I was too. And we just kind of disappeared for that summer. Yeah.
So
that was pre-Mark.
He wouldn't have let that go down.
No, that was that other guy. What was his name? Randall?
Randall.
He had the hairy feet.
So Jeff, we're sorry. And Mark's going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to fix it.
Mark's, you're putting together a series, right, Mark?
We're going to do another series, another few episodes where we unpack the pandemic, but also talk about what does recovery look like and how do you get over the pandemic and what is the next step? What's the next phase? We all just went remote, bought a ton of technology, implemented it with no advance notice, and now it's our job to sustain that. So we'll do a few episodes on that, interview some cool people, and that's coming up in the next few weeks.
Like how cool?
Really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really cool.
Cool. All right, what's our next?
All right, we got Wyatt wanting to talk about esports and kind of a similar deal. Wanting us to unpack a little bit. How do we build our esports program? Do we have esports going on at our school? And again, that's kind of one of those things we used to talk about that a little bit more than we have as of several recent episodes. So I guess I think let's quickly unpack this. What do you guys do at your school districts? Do you have esports programs? Yes, no, maybe.
Unfortunately, no. I've tried a couple different times. I've got kind of a vested interest in it. My son's in the high school, but it's not something that has gained traction. And I think it's interesting. I don't know if this is the case everywhere, but with clubs anyway, they allow our student council to be the ones that decide on what clubs are allowed to get started or not and have official, sponsorships from the school. And esports is just one that hasn't had the traction with student council to become a club. It's unfortunate. I wish we could do it, but that's just kind of the state of where things are right now with us.
Same. We really want to do esports. There's a few of us who have really talked about it, and we've had a few meetings with our athletics folks. It's just really hard to get that off the ground, get the traction for it. And it really needs a strong coach and somebody who's going to lead the program on the ground. So unfortunately we don't have esports, but man, if I had somebody who come up and said, I'll take the reins, I will jump on that opportunity.
Okay, Mark, now get ready because this is where Chris makes us look really bad.
Should we edit this part out?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had an esports program for several years now. And as far as getting started, the biggest tip I can give as far as technology goes is to try to find a way to double dip that with a grant or with funding. If you can have your esports lab also be your business lab or your graphic arts class lab.
PLTW.
Yes, any avenue that you can I'm going to use this for this during the day, and then it becomes available after school for something else, and that's okay with that grant or with that funding to do that double dipping. That's definitely the way to go. We have enough kids, enough interest at the high school level that we have a varsity team and a JV team, and we have several things running. So we do. I know right now we're doing Halo stuff. We do Smash. We do Overwatch, Rocket League. We've had several. We've had a second round of refreshing those computers.
Really, already?
Yeah, and it's, I think what has helped us is our local community college has an esports program. And typically what, your local high schools do, they try to line up with what the local college is doing. So when that college announced that they were going to do that and they were going to offer some scholarship opportunities, that really cleared the way for us to pump some funding into esports. I think too, for us, when we were getting going, it was important. We had some surrounding schools, like our rival schools, were trying to get spun up at the same time. It is cool to face off against your neighbor that you also play in football or play in basketball and get to talk that smack and that rivalry stuff and build that up in esports. That went over really well all the way to the board. The board members, they like hearing that
That's
we
awesome.
took down the neighbor. That kind of breaks down some of those walls that you start seeing esports as this competitive thing, just as you do soccer or any other extracurricular thing.
Do you find that do you pick the game, or does that kind of naturally come out by the people that are joining the team, or the coach, or the players?
Missouri benefits right now. There's a thing called MOSIF, and it's kind of the Missouri organization that started off pretty grassroots. But they kind of lead on what games they're going to try to get everybody to do to dictate some of that. But again, we let college kind of like come back to us. So we look and see what the colleges are going to have the kids play and what's the popular thing for that. So again, we're prepping them for what college is supposed to look like.
How often does the game change? Is it like an annual thing, or you think it's you playing the same game for a few years?
For the first couple years or seasons, it was just like a seasonal thing. There'd be like a fall round of esports, and typically 2 different games is what we've been doing. Usually it's been Smash on Nintendo Switch and then something else on computer. If that's Overwatch or if that's Rocket League, those 2 things have kind of switched back and forth.
Oh, I didn't know.
I know this year it's been Halo. That's been a new game. So that's been the trendier thing to play.
Wow, I didn't know that console games were also part of the circuit. That's really cool.
Smash
Smash
Bros is huge. Yeah.
And that's kind of probably the big one. A lot of times the console stuff is not big. They want you to play on computer. But the coolest story I have is we had a college recruiter come, and I remember talking to the AD about this. He thought they were he thought there was an interest in a student for his golf game, and the college was actually more interested in his Fortnite rank.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And that was a weird, that's a weird story.
Well,
so
Chris, go ahead, Mark.
Are the recruiters finding students through the high school team? Or are they finding them separately through like their independent work? Like, how are recruiters finding students? Because I feel like with gaming, it doesn't have to be on the field. Like, it doesn't have to be through the high school team.
There's some tricky stuff to that, but a lot of times, so like you are working on and I'm going to botch this up because I'm not the esports guy, but your username, like your profile, who you are in Overwatch when you're at home playing, you get the login as that account when you're at school joining up with your team. So that gets to be seen, while at school and away.
Oh, wow. So do kids like ever have to be like, I got to change my name because
I got to start over.
I got to start over again because my outside name's not appropriate?
Maybe Josh would have to.
Yeah.
But we benefited. The sponsors we have are all in on doing it. And again, we did get administrative buy-in. Like they support esports.
Your esports teams, like they've got jerseys, they've got it all, right?
Yeah, we do jerseys. They do the custom mouse pad. The esports lab is super impressive. We have the custom games, the custom computers that the tower has our logo on it. That kind of stuff. We do an esports. Talking about events, we do an esports expo. That's in March. We host that at our school, and that's again kind of the kickoff to the season in the area. It's always been cool. You get all the local schools to come, and these kids make eye contact with each other. They shake hands with each other. It's just like a scrimmage for the day.
There you go, Mark. You should come in for Chris's esports expo.
It sounds fun. So, and I'm fascinated by this because I really want this to happen in our district, and it's just so hard to get off the ground. But when the kids walk through the hallways, you know how there's always the traditional like, oh, everybody knows who the football players are. Everybody knows Is it the same? Do they have the same like cred within the schools, the players?
I mean, this is opinion and perspective, right? And my son is on the esports team.
Yeah.
I don't think
sure.
it's
His dad's a tech director. What do you expect?
Hey, he is not in my shadow. He thinks he is, but he's not. He shines just fine by himself. It is seen as activity. I don't think it's seen as sport, but it gets the same kudos. Like, like the kids that get like those banners printed, like the football players have their own banners. The esports program gets that as well. Our esports program did well just recently, so the board's recognizing them this month, actually. I don't know if it's as cool as like the football player that's the all-star, but it's completely acknowledged at the school as this legitimate thing.
That's really cool.
I'd say it's cooler than, and my son's also on academic team. I think it's cooler than academic team, but not as cool as basketball.
Got it. Okay.
That's where I would go.
Is it cooler than soccer?
I don't know. We don't have soccer, so.
Oh, okay. So I've gone down to Chris's Esports Expo a couple different times. And the first one that I went to, there was a ton of people there. There were colleges there. There were recruiters there. The Army was there. And the coolest thing that I remember witnessing was, by the end of the day, a college walked up to a kid and more or less offered him a full ride scholarship because of esports, because of how he played that day.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a true story. That was
wild, really
too.
Cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah, the Army will be at this expo in March. They're trying to bring their esports guys.
Wow.
Which is wild to think the Army has an esports team.
Yes. Last time the guys they sent, I'm trying to think if it was Overwatch or Rocket League, but
it was Rocket League.
And the Army went undefeated. They beat everyone.
Well, I would hope
USA.
Beating up teenagers, yeah.
Very cool.
So, yeah, Mark, come on in. I think this is a viable conference for you to go to, Mark.
It's free.
Okay. Hop on the K-12 Tech Talk jet, and we'll see you in a couple hours. Let's do the last listener email first.
Good. I need an Australian accent for good day.
Good day.
Good day, mate. Mark, what's yours?
Yeah, I don't think we should do accents.
Mark has that extra HR training and stuff always. He's not from a small town in Missouri. Good day, mate. Mitch from Australia. And Mitch, he didn't even have any questions. He literally said, good day. And let us know that he's listening from Australia. And we thought that was super cool. He said he's been listening every day to and from work. And he's almost caught up. He's on episode 104, and he's happy to see that we're still going. That's a very cool email.
I wonder if he has kangaroos in his backyard. Like we have deer in our backyards. Yeah, I wonder if kangaroos just like show up in the evenings as the sun is setting on the prairie or whatever. Are they out back?
What was the other country? We're like, hey, we have people listening from this country, and then
we made them. Yeah, we probably made them mad. I think it was probably Australia at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've done that. We've done. Yeah. Because Corey was like, he shrimp on the party.
Shrimp on the party. Not strip. Shrimp.
Chris. That's what I said. Strip on the shrimp. I was holding back my Australian. And I missed the word. That was Corey, right? I think he kept saying it.
I'm sure that was Corey. Yes, while he was chewing runts. Let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Extreme Networks allows for multi-vendor integration into Extreme Cloud. Extreme's extensive multi-vendor management capabilities are unique in the industry, allowing for management of third-party devices such as Cisco and HPE switches and more. Check out Extreme. You can email dmayer, that's DMAYER, at extremenetworks.com.
All right. Thanks for sticking with us through that quick commercial about Extreme Networks. I'm an Extreme user. Chris is an Extreme user. They are, I think I saw a thing on Twitter the other day. They are in either Twitter or LinkedIn because I follow Dominic Mayer, the area SE or the area sales guy. What is it? 48 of 49 football stadiums. Extreme Networks is the infrastructure. I found that an interesting stat. So check out Extreme Networks if you're in the market for networking gear, physical networking, or wireless networking. I promise you probably won't be disappointed. So
If their switches ever come in, right? Am I right?
I've got my switches in. I don't. You didn't.
I'm waiting.
Buy
Let's
the
just
right
move.
kind.
Let's move.
But that's any vendor, right, Aruba? So something that came up in discussion today, one of the discussions I was in this week, was Google MFA settings. So huge push to turn on MFA for everything that you can turn it on. But it was there was a discussion about the MFA settings in Google. So one of the settings is to allow or disallow trusted devices, and we can talk about that in a second. The other one is kind of like a session expiry that after X number of hours or days, the Chrome session or the Google session expires and forces a re-login of the account just to make sure the person is still there and using the device, and it's not that person is not walked away or not abandoned the device. So let's kind of talk about this real quick, guys. Where do you stand? Let's start with the trusted device setting. Where do you stand, or where do you think schools should be on the trusted device setting for MFA?
I'm getting in my Google admin. Where do you want me to click?
Man, I couldn't tell you. Wherever the MFA setting is, I believe there's an option in there to allow or disallow trusted devices. So what the trusted device setting does is when you log in with Google and it prompts you for the MFA, there's an option that says trust this device. And if you put a check in that box, it will not prompt you for MFA on that device again if you log in, because it is a trusted device. So that option is toggleable by the administrator. So the question is, for it really to be strong MFA, or I guess industry standard is the wrong word, but that kind of up to par, up to snuff MFA, should we be disabling the allowance of trusted devices? What do you guys think?
No.
Okay, so you're going to take the stance of allowing trusted devices.
Yes. So we are allowing trusted devices, and we're doing it for a couple of reasons. The first is we have staff who are using Chrome devices, Chromebooks or Chromeboxes.
Yes.
And if you don't have that checked off, they have to authenticate with two-step every single time they log in.
We have trusted devices turned on, and they still have to do it every time they log in.
There's another setting on there too.
Yeah, it's the show prior users or show user. Yeah.
So we do it for that reason, and we also do it because our teachers are mobile. They're moving around the classroom. They're moving around the school. They're on laptops, and if we're going to expect them to have their cell phone everywhere and have to use that two-step multiple times, possibly multiple times a day, that's taking away instructional time. So I view this as, while it is a technical consideration, there's an impact on instruction that you have to take in consideration. We also have a lot of buildings where cell service is not the best. And if I have a teacher who's teaching in a basement classroom and they have kind of spotty connectivity and they're using a text message that doesn't come through, then we have an even more severe impact on teaching and learning. So we do allow that trusted devices for us.
So to kind of talk about, to go a little bit deeper, Mark, on that second setting that we referenced. So one, if you allow trusted devices, and the second setting, I forget what it's called, but it's more or less the show prior login or show user profile ID or something at the login screen. Yeah. So when we turned on MFA, or when we started forcing MFA 2 years ago, we noticed right away that on Chromebooks, it prompted for MFA every time. And it's because we don't have that show profile ID enabled. I ended up starting a ticket with Google and said, is this the intended behavior? Should this be prompting for MFA every time on Chromebooks? And support's answer was, our intended methodology, or our intended outcome for this is, if you require MFA and they log in on a Chrome device, it should prompt them every time for MFA. And they quickly said, however, if this becomes a problem, you can go in and you can change this other setting, the show profile ID or whatever it's called, and it will not prompt them for MFA at every login. At that time, we decided to say, well, we're not going to turn that on. We're going to go with the intended behavior. So when a teacher does log on to a Chromebook, it prompts them for MFA every time with us. Now, we do have trusted devices enabled for desktops right now.
And there is a similar setting in Office 365. The language is almost identical. It's remember multi-factor authentication, allow users to remember their devices remember their authentication on devices they trust. So very, very similar setting on the Microsoft.
And in Google Admin, I'm under security authentication 2-step verification.
And that's where the trusted device setting is?
Yep.
Okay, so there is another setting under...
I also allow
Chris,
user to trust device. Me and Mark in sync.
No, we do too. I'm just saying...
We should meet Mark in Texas.
Ooh, what's that? The old country and western dual...
Just play that sound effect over and over again, please.
Yeah. Ooh. So I guess that's worth pointing out too. If you are flustered by the MFA on Chromebook every login, go in and change that profile, show profile ID or show profile picture setting, and that will fix that. So the other setting in that security authentication area is a session expiry setting. The default setting is 14 days. And what this setting is it more or less will time out the cached login in Chrome and in Gmail for that account. And the default setting is they have to re-authenticate every 14 days. So
pause.
Yep.
You're talking about always show usernames and photos?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that's under Chrome settings device, and then go to device settings. That's where you should be. And then that's under sign-in screen.
Say it again. What setting?
Chrome settings device, and that will get you to device settings, and then look for sign-in screen, and it says show usernames and photos on the sign-on screen.
I knew it had something to do with the word photo. So the session expiry, ours was 14 days. I took it down to 7 days just to see what happens. I don't think anybody's really going to notice because you figure 7 days, that's a week. That's a reasonable time to need to re-authenticate. Have either of you guys looked at that setting or changed that setting at all?
Yeah, so we actually the setting is a little different depending on who you are. I won't go into like the details of it, but there are.
Oh, come on, Mark, tell us.
Sorry. All right, look, well, I'll just be blunt. The most confidential accounts.
Sure.
There is no saving of the setting. You're logging in with 2-step every single time.
Oh.
Whereas some of our less sensitive accounts, it does save. I don't remember, it's either 14 or 30 days or something to that effect.
Yeah, I
so
like it.
We do it differently depending on the level of importance of your account.
And you can do that based on role membership, right? Or not group membership, but the what rights you have assigned to you, right?
Yeah. So it's you can do by group, at least within Google, and it's the same with Microsoft because you have Azure AD. You can do it by groups. You can do it by OUs. Different settings, and however you organize your users, there's a way to have different settings depending.
And you base it on OU or membership. So yeah.
Yep.
No, I like it. I really like the idea of that tiered, maybe your IT department or your dean of students or your administrators, every time they log in, they're going to MFA. I think that's a good practice to get into. Chris, I guess I'm
looking for that one.
It's under security authentication, I believe. It's in that same general area that MFA is in. Session expiry, maybe?
Can I say there's another setting too that you really need to have, and that is for new users. What's the grace period?
Yeah.
I see that.
And so that one means that when you create a new user, they're prompted when they log in, say, hey, you have a week or you have 2 weeks to turn on 2FA. So they don't have to bother you every time you have a new employee. So that's definitely another one as well. Give your new employees a chance to turn on 2FA when they first start.
So Mark, okay, so we have had some issues with that. We cannot figure out if it is 2 weeks from account creation or 2 weeks from login. I know the support documentation says 2 weeks from first login, but we've had some users that I know they did not go that full 2 week of grace after their first login, and it cut them off at the knees. So I don't know. I'm not real sure how it applies that setting. Have you? I guess you haven't seen that.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I think I have the same question too. Is it when the account's created or when they log in for the first time?
Right.
I would guess it's when the account is created.
So, Chris, the setting is under security, access, and data control, and then Google session control. And
Righteous.
the only option in here is session control, web session duration. The default is set at 14 days. You can
Gotcha.
you can take it up to 30 days, or session never expires, which I think you'd probably have a hard time arguing that's a good setting. And then there's 7 days, 24 hours, 20 hours, 12 hours, 8 hours, 4 hours, and 1 hour. So I think that's probably a good setting to check out and maybe tweak, like Mark said, based on roles or based on
Right.
OU membership. That's probably worth looking at and maybe making a change.
So let's talk about ways that 2FA can be compromised. Because even though we're talking about different settings to allow it to be either easier or more strict, there are multiple ways that two-factor can be compromised, including stealing of the cookie on your computer. So, what we're talking about are different settings that you can play with. I don't think we're necessarily saying this is how it should be done.
Yeah.
And as you adjust those security settings, you need to know exactly how it works. And I hate to say this, you do all this work to get two-factor turned on. You're not immune. You can still have users falling for SMS campaigns that allow a threat actor to steal their two-factor authentication, or even just a simple pass the cookie attack scenario. You've stolen that authenticated session.
Pass the cookie. We did that in high school. So
I did that yesterday.
I don't think it means what you think it means, Chris.
Yeah, I don't think
Chocolate chip cookies?
Sure, Chris. Chris, you're kind of going through this growing pain right now, right? You're in the throes of activating 2FA.
Yeah, so we got Google 2FA on for every employee, from super to principal to cook to custodian to tech to maintenance. If you're an employee, you get it. I gave a month notice, probably 3 or 4 email reminders, and then I turned that bad boy on for all.
Did you
do? There's one setting that for us was just incredible, and what it did is when you do the future date.
Yes.
Oh,
did you do that?
No.
You didn't?
Oh
no.
Wow,
so
you're mean.
Yes. Well, but what happens too is actually I think it's what you're talking about, the session control. You can turn on two-factor. I have users that did not turn on two-factor. So riddle me this real quick. Users that did not turn on two-factor, I have them in the two-factor group. It is fully enforced.
Yep.
But the last time I did this with if we impacted this previously, I had just teachers do it previously.
Yeah.
And there's days that went by before they actually got locked out of their account.
Interesting.
And that has to be that session control I'm thinking now.
Probably where the account is cached. That could be. Mark and I are talking about the setting security authentication, two-step verification, at the very, very top there, the checkbox that says allow users to turn on two-step. Right below that, it says on from, and it allows you to put in a date, and it's a future date. So what it does is the people that don't have it turned on, they get nag notices every time they log in that says, hey, on this date, this is going to be required. You need to turn this on. Go here to turn it on. And then on that date, it turns on. So if
that was the best setting we found.
Done that, huh?
The nag notice. Yeah, the nag notice on
I nagged them, but I didn't have Google nag them.
We did both, but when we, and I'll admit, we didn't know that was doing that until probably a month before it went live or 2 weeks before it went live. When we turned it on, all of a sudden we just saw everybody enabling two-factor.
Good.
Right away.
Mark, are you guys, have you hit your date? If you can say, okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it was good. I mean, we're a larger district, so we had a very high percentage hit the date just fine.
Good.
But we had, I think it was about 80% turned it on without us, and then on that date, about 20% of, let me put it this way, 20% of users who actively use their account.
Gotcha.
It was still in the thousands.
Oh my goodness. How many? Remind me. How many employees do you guys have?
Well, there's employees and contractors and everything. So I can't remember the exact number. So I think we had around 10 or 11,000 people turn on two-factor on their own, and I think there was about 5,000 who did not make the deadline. Of that 5,000, maybe about half were active users.
Huh.
My 90 doesn't feel so bad anymore.
We only had, when we turned it on 2 years ago, we only had one holdout that waited until last minute. Like it wasn't a protest, but it was a protest kind of thing.
Right.
But it was fine. And now all of our maintenance folks, all of our subs, all of our bus drivers, it's been a little bit of a struggle for maintenance, but they're good people. They work through it. It's not a big deal.
Maintenance, they are good people.
Yep. So yeah, if you're not doing it, you should be. It's definitely one of the things that CISA, their report that they were mandated to come up with for K-12. It's definitely one of the things that's been addressed in there is MFA. So yeah, you should be addressing it.
The way we looked at it is, if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? You have to do it. You have to turn on two-factor for all staff.
And that's a good point, Mark. You probably have the most support now. Like you have multiple agencies telling you this. Your insurance agency is probably telling you this. If your state did the state and local tribal cybersecurity grant, they're telling you to do this. It's hard to make the argument of no, we're not. 3 years ago, you could make the argument this is too much work. We're not doing this. This is an undue burden. You can't make that argument now. I really don't see it.
Here's what I recommend. If you don't have two-factor on, look at the calendar. Find the next time the first of the month hits on a Wednesday. That's your date that you want to go live.
Why?
It's easy to advertise the first of the month to say, hey, it's going to be February 1st or it's going to be March 1st. Everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
And a Wednesday is the best day to go live because you have Monday and Tuesday, your last 2 days to say, to remind people if you need to walk around the building, let them know. You go on live on Wednesday, and that gives Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get all the holdouts before the weekend. If you activate it, if you enforce it on a Saturday or Sunday, your Monday morning is going to suck. And you're going to have a lot of people at your front door that day, or they're going to be calling you over the weekend. So at least Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's your cleanup day, and you're ready to go.
That was a really good idea. Chris, mark this down.
I got it.
Give him a bonus this week. We might make him permanent.
Scribble.
I think that just made you permanent, Mark.
Yes.
No, that's a really good idea. I hadn't thought about that kind of timing, but yeah, first of the month on a Wednesday. Does it have to be a full moon too? Would that help?
I don't know. I haven't thought.
Oh, okay. So down this path of MFA, if you, we're not even going to get into it. We'll talk about that next episode. Chris, what is our Florida question of the week?
The Florida question of the week brought to you by Fortinet, our proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. They have the Florida Analyzer. Did you guys know that? The Florida Analyzer. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't. You can't give them recommendations because they've taken every term.
It is log management, does analytics, and it's a reporting platform. You can check that out. I'll put a link to the podcast. I'll put a link to that in the podcast description. Did that make sense? Probably not. So quick thoughts and be kind of top level, whatever on this. Best practices, mark wisdom, tips on how much time you or your team spends on looking at logs. Do you have people that look at reports? Do you look at reports and summaries like big time once a week with your firewall, with your content filter, kind of whatever you want to pack? How do you best approach, man, logs have good data, I should look at that. How much time do you invest into that on a quick level? I mean, we can't unpack that fully, I don't think, but unpack that a little bit.
Mark looks like he's making...
Do you block out time? Do you set up a bunch of alerts in your firewall to tell you what's going on?
Mark's making notes, so I'll go first. I get alerts. That's super easy to do in a firewall. But big picture thing, I think for small districts, and I can, when you look at the three of us, I consider Chris, you and I to be small potatoes compared to Mr. Mark.
But golden.
Right.
Golden small potatoes.
I would go for Idaho, but whatever.
Mark's like a rugged russet.
A russet, a nice russet. Yeah.
Still taking notes.
You ever had those potatoes that you left in the pantry too long and they grow like they're
eyes.
starting to...
Yeah. Those are called eyes. Yeah.
That's Mark.
So, okay, back to what I was saying. I think smaller districts, it's harder to dedicate time to something like that because log management or just parsing through logs can be overwhelming depending on how many sources you have dumping into a log management solution or a SIEM. I think smaller districts could definitely gain insight by subscribing to a SOC of some sort that either aggregates AD logs, login, bad password attempts, firewall logs, and there's a SOC monitoring that 24/7. Because if you have a staff of 4 guys who really and you have 4,000 users, who has the time to dig into the SIEM and look at it? That's my take on this.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. You have a lot of systems that are just, their logs are just massive. And so you can't expect to manually go through logs unless you're looking for, exactly what you're looking for.
Right.
So no, that's where a SIEM comes in, or that's where, and some sort of analyzer. I'm sure Chris is going to follow it up with a solution to this, but something that can automatically look through your logs and find something.
My only nugget, the best that I know I ever did with looking at logs was, alerts big time, summary reports big time. If you can spend time on it, do so. But to have dedicated time, like you're like, hey, Thursday afternoon, that's my reoccurring thing. I'm going to spend 30 minutes to an hour looking at these particular reports, making myself spend time looking at things, doing some log review. I think that's important.
Okay, but play devil's advocate on that statement. Say you set your time for Thursday afternoons at 2 to 2:30. At 2:35, if there is an important log hit that takes place, you're not going to see it for the next week.
Sure.
Right? So to me, that's where that argument, if you've got some money that you can throw at a SOC that can do that or has the capability to keep an eye on those logs for you, that's where I think that money is well spent in that manner. Very well spent in that manner.
I agree.
All right, guys. Any closing thoughts for this week? You're shaking your head. That makes great podcast.
Trim that up.
Yeah, clearly. All right. Well, that was episode 107. If you are going to be in Texas, it seems like Mark and Chris and intern Eric are going to be in Texas quite a bit over the next 2 months. We will be in New Hampshire. If you're going to be at the New Hampshire, what is it? The New Hampshire CTO clinic? Is that what it is, Chris? What's the official term that Neil is bringing?
NHCTO.
There you go. Neil, I believe, reached out to us and got us coming to New Hampshire. I met Neil at MSI or at the MSISEC last August. Mark, you met Neil in New Orleans, I believe. He was one of the gentlemen that came up to you and introduced himself to you.
I did. Are you guys buying round trip tickets to New Hampshire or just one way?
we're renting a car back.
Side note, Dimmer.
Yes.
If you're on sysadmin Reddit, we posted on there. Great discussion going on there about the last episode that we did. K12 Tech Pro article that intern Eric wrote. Spectacular. If you don't check out either of those places, you should.
Yeah, and there might be something special coming from K12 Tech Pro in the near future too. We'll probably talk about that at a later date. All right. Yeah, nice teaser. All right, guys. No final thoughts? We'll wrap it up for episode 107. We
Mark,
will
do that thing.
What thing?
MFA. Cut that out.
Okay, let's see you guys.
See you guys next week.
Provision Data Solutions is a proud sponsor of the K12 Tech Talk podcast, and they can take your tech department to wherever you want to go. Speaking of where you're going, let's talk about where we're going. You can hang out with us on K12TechPro.com, where we and others post a bunch of K12 Tech-related articles and podcast recaps. We're also going to be hitting the road. We will be at the K12 6 conference in Austin, Texas, February 22nd and 23rd. We'll be at the Midwest Tech Talk Security Symposium, March 10th in Columbia, Missouri. And we'll be at the Coastin Conference back in Austin, Texas, March 20th through the 23rd. A long ways away, but we will also be at the NHCTO Clinic in Meredith, New Hampshire on May 4th. We're excited to attend those, and we hope to see you there.